Yeah, here we go, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Friday edition of Before You Bet. Airing live right now on the Covers YouTube and X channels. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that subscribe and that like button right down there. Great big show planned for you guys today. We've got a lot to discuss, recapping what we saw in the NBA last night, looking ahead to Game 2, getting a jump on some of our bets for that. A handful of picks for Major League Baseball and a Stanley Cup Finals betting preview. But Josh Inglis, Stanley Cup gets going there tomorrow, so he's going to give us a little bit of help there. There's some picks for Panthers versus Oilers. Let's start with NBA, though. So that means we're bringing in our guy, the magic-ass man, Jon Metler. Metler, how are we making out?
Good. You said gray sweater, but that's not the Covers gray sweater. I thought we were going to match again.
No, that was embarrassing. You don't want to be seen wearing the same shirt as another dude, unless it's like a uniform or something like that. So greatly humiliated by that, and also greatly humiliated by my take on Kristaps Porzingis entering the NBA Finals here. So I've been known to have a bad take or two, and I think my assessment of the impact Porzingis would have in the finals, and specifically Game 1, that might be my worst take of the year so far here in 2024. So it's important to admit when you're wrong. I was dead wrong on that one. And what we saw from Porzingis in Game 1 last night, that was absolutely incredible. I don't think a whole lot of people expected much out of him, especially right off the bat. But he comes out, he scores 20 points in 20 minutes, made a big impact on the defensive end as well. He had a little spurt there where he simply could not miss. He could not be stopped. And this is a big deal. It was incredible. I don't think we've seen too many things like that in the history of sports. And that's not an exaggeration. This wasn't him returning after a lengthy absence in the regular season to beat up on the Washington Wizards. No, the biggest possible stage, Game 1 of the NBA Finals. I was trying to think of examples of instances like this we've seen in sports. The only one I could think of, John, and the viewers watching at home, was Terrell Owens with the Philadelphia Eagles, when I think he missed like 5 weeks, and he comes into that Super Bowl against the Patriots, and I think he had like 8 catches for 120 yards, basically playing on a broken leg. That's the only thing I can think of. If anyone watching has any other examples of something like what we saw from Porzingis last night, drop it in the chat. Let me know, because I was dead wrong. That was impressive, but we still got a long series to go. That run the Celtics had in the first quarter, they basically, that pretty much sealed the game for them, essentially. Some dumb, sloppy stuff there from the Mavericks. But, John, your assessment of Game 1, what we saw last night.
Yeah, if you're a Mavericks fan, I wouldn't necessarily panic, because I think there's chess moves you can make to counter kind of what the Celtics were doing. It was interesting, they played defensively very different than what you've seen, how everyone else has decided to guard Luka Doncic. And it did kind of choke off their role players, where they kind of took the stance of like, okay, Doncic scores 30, you'll let Doncic score. But Doncic wasn't in control of the game. He didn't have like complete flow of the offense. Like a big part of their offense is Derek Lively's a lob threat. Well, they just weren't helping. If you were the defender on Lively, you stayed on him. So there was basically their centers weren't really able to have an impact in the game that way. They also made like a very conscious effort to choke off the corner threes. So like, again, Derek Jones Jr. is in there for defense, and his offense is kind of like a corner three, some drives, and they weren't helping off the corner three. So that kind of takes him out of the offensive picture. I do kind of wonder, I think if you're looking at Game 2, I think Derek Jones Jr.'s, I think his minutes could kind of be in trouble. Like how many drives did he have? And he got absolutely stuffed at the rim as well. I think Jason Kidd might look to go a little more offense. And like that might be Jaden Hardy. You did see Tim Hardaway Jr. kind of get in there. Maxi Kleber had some minutes too, but I played him over 2.5 points. He only had 2. He wasn't looking to shoot at all. So I don't think the 10 days helped him. I think his shoulder is maybe just not healthy at all. And he can play the game, but I don't know if he can shoot. I think the Celtics made a lot of good moves. They had a lot of adjustments. I'm kind of interested to see how Jason Kidd fires back for Game 2. The Mavericks can make changes here. Like you said, Porzingis like blocked out just an unbelievable quarter. I mean, they shot the 3 really well. I think they said at the end of the game, they lost the 3-point battle by 30 points. That's a huge, you play any team, you play the Pistons and you lose a 3-point battle by 30 points, you're in trouble. So it was a good game one. Mavericks aren't out of it by any means.
Yeah, I still think the Mavs can make it a series. One thing that did stick out to me, though, a real negative for the Mavs. So Kyrie Irving, he had some decent plays. Overall, he kind of played like shit. He had 12 points in the game. But did you see this in the press conference after? He said, now, I don't know the whole context of it. I didn't see the whole quote. I don't even know what the question was. But the little clip I saw was Kyrie saying, I thought the Boston crowd would be louder. That's an idiotic thing to do. Why would you want to bait that crowd, especially after coming off having a shitty game, Kyrie? So perhaps a little bit of a misstep by Kyrie there. I do like the Mavs, so I do hope he can bounce back a little bit. But did you see that clip in the press conference from Kyrie?
I did, and I found it interesting too. Like you're saying, why were they baiting the crowd? Because I mean, Doncic and Irving both in general just look sped up on the road. They both had like kind of bad turnovers. Like Doncic got his pocket picked a couple times. Kyrie Irving, I think he dribbled off his foot the one time for a turnover. He also threw like a bad pass. So I mean, they didn't. Yeah, the travel. They didn't necessarily like. They didn't look like their role. And then when that's happening, your role players also get incredibly sped up because they're kind of relying on you to like keep the game in control. And I mean, it was Doncic's first NBA Finals. I mean, Kyrie's been there before, but obviously a hostile environment for him. I thought the same thing. I was like, well, I'm surprised he is baiting them to be even louder because they kind of had problems with it in game one. So we'll see. We'll see how he comes out. He was able to get a lot of shots, just he was not hitting them.
Yeah, that said, he shouldn't have done that, but I do agree with them. I thought they were going to be louder when he got the ball too, because I was kind of waiting. You know, we all know the situation. The guy gets the ball as soon as he touches it, boo! The crowd just goes nuts. There was a little bit of that, but it wasn't too overwhelming like I thought it would be. Okay, that's enough small talk. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like there's kind of been an emphasis. I've seen a lot of fan base on Twitter saying not to do that because like the Timberwolves fans did to Jamal Murray and he went crazy and had a big game. And then you saw the Timberwolves fans do to Doncic and he went crazy. It almost like hypes up the player even more when it's like a personal attack. So it might have been a little strategy to like not give him that energy type thing. Maybe that's what.
Don't give those drunk fans, don't give them that much credit. They didn't meet outside the arena and said, you know, this is how we're gonna behave. Okay, so let's get into picks for game 2. Then I'm going to do my Major League Baseball. Then we're going to do a Stanley Cup Finals betting preview. I'm going to get us started. So you guys know I like the Mavs going into the series. I picked them to cover in game 1. That didn't go very well. I picked them to win the series. And yeah, one game's not scaring me off here, guys. I got the spread up to 7 here. I'm going to take the Mavs +7. And everybody, let's relax. We've seen some insane momentum swings throughout the playoffs, and this series probably won't be much different. Now, Dallas, look at this little pattern here. They got killed in game 1 versus the Clippers. They got killed in game 1 versus the Thunder. They bounced back in game 2. They're actually 5-0 after a loss in these playoffs. The Clippers beat them quite badly. They had a 23-point lead entering the fourth quarter. The Thunder beat them by 22. Speaking of game 2s, we know the Celtics have suffered some disappointing losses in game 2s in these playoffs versus the Heat and the Cavs after destroying them in game 1 of those series. So a bit of a pattern forming for each of the teams here. Dallas was more competitive than the final score indicated. They actually outscored them in the second half of the game. It really came down to the final 5 minutes of the first quarter. It's kind of like the Celtics put them away early. The final 5 minutes of the first quarter, Dallas got outscored 15-2. So the Celtics, like I said, they kind of put them away early. And expect some improvements here, some adjustments from a coaching perspective, and just some general overall stuff. Dallas only shot 25.9% from three-point land, a lot of wide open misses from them as well, and some real sloppiness here. I don't know. I think maybe they were obviously hurt more by the layoff than the Celtics were, but you saw back-to-back plays where the Mavericks traveled. I think it was Lively and then Kyrie. That was when they were making a little bit of a push there in the third quarter as well. So yeah, some undisciplined sloppiness from them. So I think they're going to be a lot more disciplined in this one. Hit a few more threes and give them a game. So I'll take Mavs +7 for game 2 on Sunday. John, let's get into your props here. PJ Washington first. What do you like for him?
I'm going over 11.5 points. Speaking of hitting more threes, that's not kind of what I'm chasing a little bit here with PJ Washington. I will say, so I bet that this morning, 11.5 minus 105. It was the best price was minus 115. It was kind of widely available at minus 115 before we came on here. I know it doesn't seem like a rush to bet these props considering it's Friday and the game's on Sunday. There's only one minus 115 left on the board. It's at bet 365. Some have FanDuel bumped up to 12.5 and a couple are at like minus 130. So I actually would go grab this pretty quickly here. It does look like it's on the move to 12.5. And I mean, rightfully so. He was 11.5 before game one. There's really just no adjustment to this number for game two. They basically opened it at the exact same price, which I was kind of shocked because he scored 14 points in game one. The one thing that really caught my eye with PJ Washington, like when you're watching the game, like you kind of look at the rest of his playoffs, he's going over his points total was very dependent on him hitting threes, and he was taking a lot of them as a corner 3-point shooter. Last night, he scored 14 points. He goes over the 11.5. He didn't hit a single three. So that really pops off the page to me because, he still attempted a bunch of threes. He didn't make any. So if he's able in this series to get over that total where he's not dependent on the 3-point shot, like he's going to start making some threes. Even if you add one more three, it's 17 points, 2 threes, it's 20 points, right? So that really caught my eye that you're not going to be dependent on the 3-point shot. And it really is just, again, how the Mavericks have decided to guard them. Like I said, they're choking off Derek Jones Jr., they're choking off the lob. They have to find a third scorer. And Washington had a ton of, the Mavericks really struggled scoring in the paint. That wasn't Washington. Washington did a great job of throwing his body into Porzingis or someone else and then laying it in. He had a lot of success around the rim. So 11.5, I would go grab this now. I think it's going 12.5, so I'd grab right now.
Okay, my favorite prop for game two, I'm going to take Jason Tatum to go over 14.5 assists plus rebounds. He's been absolutely crushing this number here in the playoffs. He's averaging 16.3 assists and rebounds per game. And he's had at least 15 in 12 of 15 games in the playoffs. He's crushing this number. Now, you look at game one, he led all players in potential assist and rebound chances in that game with 29 total. He finished with 16 assists and rebounds. It was kind of interesting, this quote from him going into the game. So he went out of his way. I saw this reported on by multiple outlets to say there's so much more to basketball than just scoring. So he says that, and then he goes and only shoots the ball 16 times in the game. He seemed very happy to defer, driving to the hoop, kicking it out, and hey, it worked. So hopefully we see a similar approach from Tatum here in game two. So over 14.5 assists and rebounds for him. Back to John for two. Let's start with Jaylen Brown. What do you like for him?
So going Jaylen Brown over 2.5 assists, minus 130. This is very similar to what the Jason Tatum as well. You could see the Celtics, they're doing the complete opposite of what the Timberwolves did. They are not going to allow Luka Doncic to stand on defense and stay in the corner and guard someone who's not involved. They are matchup hunting him the entire game. They want him to guard the ball all the time. And that just resulted in Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. They were able to get in the lane, weave their way through the lane. You said Jason Tatum had 14 potential assists. Jaylen Brown had 8 potential assists. That's a big number for Jaylen Brown. He didn't go over the total. His total was 2.5. He only had 2 assists. They just didn't convert. There's a ton of 3-point shots that weren't made off of passes for him. I do think if this game was not a blowout and he does play the final 5 minutes, there's a good chance he goes over and you're looking at a completely different number. So I think you're kind of benefiting from the fact that he was pulled and he only played 37 minutes. And that's been a thing throughout the entire playoffs with these Celtics players. The Mavericks players are priced like they're going to play 40 minutes because they've had to. The Celtics players aren't priced like that because they just don't play big minutes because the gap on the score is always so big. There's just so many blowouts, and it happened once again. But I think the encouraging part is like, on that number to establish like a really nice edge, you only need about 37 minutes from Brown, but he was on pace to play like 42, 43 if that game's not a blow. So I do think there's a chance you're getting way more minutes than what you need to beat this price. And the fact that he's gonna be able to drive the lane the whole time. They can't contain the ball. So it just comes down to can his teammates knock down shots. And with that many potential assists, you should be able to get 3 assists.
Okay. And you have one more for PJ Washington. What do you like for him?
Yeah, it's once again, I just think PJ Washington is someone. So I'm going over 1.5 assists plus 140. I think PJ Washington, again, they need a third scorer. They need a third person who can create offense and be more heavily involved, just with how the Mavericks are guarding Doncic and Irving and how they're not helping. I think PJ Washington will be that guy. I kind of view PJ Washington as like a 1.5 even money when he's just a guy who stands in the corner and works off of that. That's not who he is at all. So you're getting plus 140 here. And he's not someone who stands in the corner in the series. You could see they're not guarding. Porzingis isn't guarding Gafford. Horford isn't guarding Gafford and Lively. They've switched that up. They're more guarding Porzingis and Horford, more guarding PJ Washington. So he's coming up as a screener in the pick and roll. That kind of opens up potential assists for him. There is also, if they're going to put Jaylen Brown on Luka Doncic, that you got to make them pay for that, because that means Derek White is on PJ Washington. He's a much smaller guard. That you saw a glimpse of it, and I think it was the third or fourth quarter. They called a timeout, and then they immediately came out of timeout and they dumped the ball into the post, and PJ Washington, he got a layup. If you're going to see more PJ Washington post-ups, that's great for potential assists, because the Celtics know they have to help on that. That's something they're conceding to the Mavericks. They're going to have to help. That'll create potential assists. I do think too, like Doncic and Irving had to work incredibly hard bringing up the ball. And like when you're making Doncic guard and then work to bring up the ball, there's a couple times Washington brought up the ball, he got a couple layups, and there's another time he dumped it to Lively for a dunk. You might see him on the ball just a little bit more. So I think there's just a ton of different paths for Washington here, and 1.5 plus 140. I'm all in. I love this prop.
Okay, there you have it. Our best bets for Game 2 of the NBA Finals going down on Sunday evening in beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. Okay, Metler, that's it for your appearance on today's show. But if the people are looking for more from you, I'm sure Jon might have an additional bet or two that he figures out over the course of the weekend. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can. I probably will have an additional bet. There's still kind of more to go through that I want to look at. So you can follow me on X at Jon Metler. And then also on Tuesday, we'll have our release show, 10:30 a.m. with Adam Scherr from EV Analytics. He went 2-0 yesterday on the props he gave out. So make sure to tune in for that as well on Tuesday.
Yes, sir. Okay. Jon will be back with us on Monday, where hopefully we're celebrating having a better performance with our Game 2 picks than we had with our Game 1 picks. So bounce back coming for Jon and I. Jon, have an awesome weekend, man. We'll catch you on Monday.
All right. Good luck with your bets, everyone.
Yes, sir. Okay. Major League Baseball, I have 4 picks for you guys. Now, I've gone a bit cold straight up over the past week. It's been a pretty good season up until this point. But gone a bit cold here. I went 2-4 last night. A couple stingers. Tanner Houck of the Red Sox had under 1.5 earned runs. He's out there pitching. I think it was in the 6th or 7th inning. I think it was a home run he allowed. And that's how it happens with these baseball bets. You think you're just cruising along. It's going very well. Then crack, home run. You lose your bet. But sometimes you win on those bets too, right? Like I say, luck goes both ways. And sometimes it's not even luck at all. So, yeah, let's go into the weekend strong here. Let's start to bounce back and start to right the ship here in Major League Baseball. Let's start in Kansas City, where the Seattle Mariners are in town. I'm going to go Royals first 5 innings. They shouldn't be the underdog here at home in the spot, but I'm going to take them at plus 116. Bryce Miller on the mound for Seattle. He's been getting smacked on the road. 5, 4, and 4 earned runs in his last 3 starts on the road. Now he's going into Kansas City, taking on a Royals team that ranks first in OPS versus right-handed pitching at home over the last month. They rake versus righties at home. They have Daniel Lynch starting for them. The Royals do. He has a 1.50 ERA, just 3 appearances. But like I often say, sample sizes have to start somewhere. It's a 0.75 whip. He's a left-handed pitcher taking on a Seattle team that's 24th in OPS versus lefties over the last month. And Seattle having a lot of trouble generating offense early in games on the road for the season. They rank 29th in runs scored in innings 1 through 5 on the road. Give me the Royals plus 116 in the first 5 innings. Let's get into some pitcher props. Logan Webb going for the Giants. I like him to have a decent showing here tonight in Texas versus the Rangers. Going to go under 2.5 earned runs for him. So you might say, really, Joe? He hasn't been that good on the road. He has a 4.34 ERA on the road, which isn't good. But he's much better than that, considering the whip is sitting there at 2.84. He's had some bad luck. A batting average in balls in play allowed of 3.69 on the road for Webb. So I think we'll see that come down over the course of the season, hopefully starting here tonight. And beautiful, I think it's Arlington, Texas. Texas really struggling versus right-handed pitching, 28th in OPS over the last month. And he's got a pretty good track record versus his Rangers lineup. Rangers hitters have combined for an OPS of just 465 and 62 combined at-bats against him. Next up, Let's go to beautiful Cincinnati, Ohio, where the Chicago Cubs are in town. Justin Steele going to fade this guy. Pains me to do it. Had high hopes from him. Reached in my fantasy draft to take him. It's not going very well. Going to take under 17.5 outs for him. This is a guy who's having trouble finding his groove after limping into the season. You might recall he got injured in the season opener, then spent a month on the shelf on the disabled list, and has had some pretty ugly starts and control issues since. He's a left-handed pitcher. Cincinnati smashing left-handed pitching. One of baseball's hottest offenses here lately. They're 5th in OPS versus lefties over the last month, 3rd in OPS over the last week in general. And the Reds hitters have absolutely smacked the shit out of them. Great track record. They have a 904 OPS and 62 combined at-bats against him. Now, they faced him last week. He only went 5 innings, and Cincinnati got 11 guys on base in that game. So I don't like him to go and pitch, get to the 6th inning mark in this one. And let's wrap things up with Framber Valdez. A bit of a fade on him. He's in LA going against the Angels, going to go over 5.5 hits allowed. Now, the Angels lineup has absolutely owned him. They have smacked the shit out of him for a .353 batting average in 102 combined at-bats. They scored 8 runs against him on May 20th, where they had 10 hits, and he's a left-handed pitcher. Los Angeles raking versus lefties, 2nd in batting average versus lefties over the last month. Don't look at their numbers versus righties. It's not very pretty at all. And consistency has been an issue for Valdez here all season. He's coming off a good start. He's had some good starts this season, but he's also had some really shitty ones here as well. And he might have a decent start and still allow 6 hits in this game. They might not light him up by any means, but this is a guy that allows a lot of hard contact. So I think the Angels can kind of get it going against him and get to at least 6 hits. Okay, so not a whole ton of hockey coverage on the show here lately because we have another great hockey betting program here at Covers that I hope you guys are watching. If you are not, make sure you are subscribed to the Covers YouTube channel. And aside from that clip of that Oilers fan that I've seen a couple dozen times now, I haven't really been following extremely closely, to be completely honest with you. So we're going to lean on one of our NHL experts here, the NHL expert, one of the best in the business at covering the sport.
Couple dozen. Don't you lie to the audience. That's a triple digit. You're a big fan out there of I don't know. We don't know what her name is. She works in the oil fields, though. We know that. And she has the world's longest belt.
Okay.
So you didn't even notice the belt, did you?
Well, I might have undersold it when I said a few dozen. It's a pretty short clip, right? So it's easy to, it's like a 4-second clip and it just repeats itself. But, a bit of an interesting trend taking place. There was a gal down in Florida for the Panthers who did a similar act that's not getting as much attention. But maybe this is something that will take off here throughout the course of the playoffs or the course of the Stanley Cup Finals and get a lot more gentlemen interested in the sport.
We had Kodak
right?
Black in the suites last year. You don't remember that?
I wasn't into that one. I wasn't as into that one. That one was good for a laugh. Yeah. But some pretty good content coming out of the NHL here. So, Jingles, as you know, I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, not in the playoffs here for the 2nd consecutive year, so that stings. The championship window is officially shut there. However, pretty good playoffs here so far. A Canadian team here, the Oilers, trying to get the monkey off of Canada's back. And that's one thing, before we get into it, this absolutely drives me insane when the American sports fan likes to rub it into Canada. No Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup in 30 years. How many players on these American teams are Canadians? How many players are captains of these American teams, right? So, it's just an annoying thing for me as someone, a proud Canadian. People have asked me, does that bug you? I say, well, it's annoying. It would be annoying if Canada at the national level wasn't winning these, World Juniors and Olympics and stuff like that. So, just want to get that off my chest. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I think a lot of it has to do with taxes too, Joe, right? And it's nice to live in this sunshine state where you're paying like...
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
That's what I always say. And you'll have to you and Carlo might have discussed this, but if you're a big time hockey player, what type of lifestyle would you rather have? If you're Austin Matthews, you're not going into the mall on a Saturday afternoon without getting absolutely harassed.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if he's playing for the LA Kings or Florida Panthers, he can do whatever in the hell he wants and go about town basically unnoticed, essentially, right?
Jon Metler says, hasn't helped my Orlando Magic. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not a Florida guy, but I don't hear many good things about Orlando.
No. Okay, so let's get into it here. So the Panthers are favored to win the series in the minus 135 range. They're favored to win game one in the minus 140 range, depending on where you're betting. Let's get right to it. No beating around the bush. You like the Panthers to win this series. Tell us why.
It's tough, right? So the reset is big. Obviously, a lot of time between the conference finals and now. That's a big rest. But I think in that point, it's going to benefit Florida a lot more. They play more physical, and that time off really helps, especially someone like Sam Bennett, who probably wasn't playing at 100%. He missed 5 or 6 games, and then he played about 10 games, so he's back. That second line with him and Kachuk, and I believe Evan Rodriguez is on that third line now. That's a dangerous line. Okay, we know that they're deep, and especially in a 16-win tournament, which the Stanley Cups is, there's a point where you need to lose to learn something. Florida was there before. They've learned a lot. Like, you don't just make a run. Like, Edmonton needs to take their lumps, and I wouldn't see the spot. Have you looked at the depth within Edmonton? Yes, Edmonton's playing defensively. They need every praise they get for it. They haven't allowed a power play goal. Stuart Skinner's actually playing good. Chris Knobloch has got this team playing better than it ever should, and he should probably get some Jack Adams roles because of it. But in this sense, with this lineup, with this depth, with home ice, 35 points isn't a bad spot to pay for a series set. If Florida wins 4-1, I wouldn't be crazy surprised. I'd be obviously a lot more surprised if Edmonton ran the floor and won in 5 or 6 or fewer. But I wouldn't be surprised if Florida took a lot from what they did last year, and they just match up tough, and they have a matchup that they can take away the top heavy aspect of what basically Edmonton is, with how well they're running on the power play and how hard they're leading on McDavid and Draisaitl. I mean, this is a team that has Holloway on the second line and Fogle maybe playing with Draisaitl. So, I mean, Florida's the favorite for a reason. It's kind of just priced in for home ice with 25 points, kind of where home ice is allotted to, but it's Florida's team. They learned a lot from last year, Joe.
Yeah, I don't have a horse in the race, but I'll lean towards Edmonton because they got McDavid. I like to see the greats get over the hump and get that ring, get that championship. So yeah, I will cheer for them.
But I just bet McDavid. This is McDavid. McDavid not to get 4 points in a single game. You know what I paid for that today? Not to get 4 points. Like, he can score 3 in any game. Minus 150.
Like 4 points, that's an amazing.
That's it. That's incredible. He's done it twice in the playoffs already, but this is the Stanley Cup Finals.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty good bet there, right there. So you like Florida, and a bet that you have. Break this one down for us. Is kind of interesting. Tell people what it means if people don't follow hockey. Stanley Cup handoff. Aaron Ekblad plus 1260 at FanDuel. So explain this one to us.
This was 1,800. We've moved the line on it a lot. So basically, the winning team, the captain goes up, takes a cup from the commissioner, and does a lap, does his thing, and then he hands it off to somebody else. Someone's in line. But it's actually a calculated thing, who they give it to next. Last year, Riley Smith got it from Mark Stone. Riley Smith going into that playoffs, plus 3,400 to be first handoff. And we're starting to see the market realize where this is coming from, because it's not a regular market. Teams are handing it off to guys who are tenured within the team, right? They're not handing it off to the best player. They're giving it in perfect hockey tradition, right? Oh, we're firing all lines. We're doing everything. That kind of aspect goes into the culture of hockey, in which they just give it to the guy who's been there the longest, who's done the most. And in this spot, Aaron Ekblad is the longest tenured guy. He was a number 1 overall pick back in, I believe, 2013. He's been there since he's 18. That's the guy who they're going to give it to. On the other side, in Edmonton, I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's the longest tenured guy, just shy of 1,000 games, was also a 1-of-1 pick. He also gets the cup. There's some edges in there, and I was laughing with Carlo, Joe, the fact that Crosby's won it 3 times, as you know. Do you know the 3 guys who he's given it to? It's tough. They're nobodies, right?
Ooh.
It's like it's Ron Hainsey, the last one, which is okay, sure. Trevor Daley, the second one, and his first one he gave it to Bill Guerin.
Okay, Bill Guerin's the old guy type of thing.
But like you go down the list of previous handoffs, you got Riley Smith last year. Gabe Landeskog gave it to Eric Johnson in 2022. Okay, like I mean, Nathan McKinnon didn't even get it second in 2022. You want to talk about the best guy not getting it? There's your perfect example. Victor Hedman twice. We got Jay Bouwmeester, Trevor Daley, Kimmo Timonen. Jonathan Taves gave it to Kimmo Timonen.
Okay. Interesting angle, especially at that price. Decent, fun little bet to make, especially if you do have the rooting interest in Florida. Okay, so let's talk game 1. The game has a total of 5.5. You're thinking a low-scoring game here. You like the under here?
I think it's a low-scoring series in general. There's more on the line as we get deeper into the playoffs. Games do tend to tighten up, and we saw in the last round, even if you see high-scoring first periods, those unders are absolutely hanging on. The under went 8-2 in Florida's last 10 playoff games. I believe the under lost only twice in Edmonton's last 10 playoff games with 1 push in there. It's just a spot. There's been a big layoff. There's going to be some rust in what we're going to get, especially early in the game. You're going to get both Maurice and Knobloch wanting to get all his players a little bit more early ice time as compared to what happens usually later in a series, just because the guys have been off for so long. So we could see some sloppy hockey, even on special teams. That's going to be a big one, right? I'm sure that Florida's spending a lot of time making sure that they don't lose this series versus Edmonton's power play, which basically got them through the last series. But on the other side, Edmonton's penalty kill hasn't given up a goal. So I wouldn't really be surprised if we don't see a lot of special team scoring. Both teams were elite defensively at 5-on-5 in the previous 3 series. So there's a lot to like. And in playoff hockey, even if you get up, it's not like teams keep their foot on the gas. It's not like teams are looking for those empty net goals. It's different hockey. Playing the 5.5 under -105. And if this game finishes 2-1, don't be surprised if we come back and look that the under in game 2 opens -115, -120.
Okay, last but not least, so you like a low-scoring game, but you like Sam Bennett to get some shots on net here, over 2.5 for him.
Yeah, Sam Bennett, I don't think his numbers are quite priced to the role and the minutes that he's getting. Like I said previously, he was injured. He came back. Not sure he was playing at 100%, but he was effective. He had points at 8 of his 10. He scored 3 goals in his previous 3 games before the break. He's playing on the second line, playing with Tkachuk. They're going to be dirty. Erod's on that wing as well. And we're getting a slight discount because usually what's priced in heavily is guys on power play 1. But here's the thing. We're not going to see a lot of power play time, and Edmonton's penalty kill has been elite. So we're getting a little discount on the 5-on-5 numbers within that. This is a guy who, what's priced in? Like sometimes you look at sports, if you're looking at things that you're trying to get ahead of the market on, shot attempts. You don't see them. They don't come up as much, but you can find the numbers. If guys are generating a lot of shot attempts, that's usually going to lead to a lot of shots on goal, but it hasn't so far for Sam Bennett, who's second on the team in shot attempts, but much lower in actual shots on goal. So he's getting the chances. They're just not hitting the net. So hopefully we'll see that price come down after we hit that in game 1.
Okay, there you have it. Series bet and a couple bets for game 1 there tomorrow night. Jingles, you fire on anything for Major League Baseball tonight?
Logan Allen, on a little Logan Allen over 4.5 Ks. We see, I got that at +110. I think there's some even or +105 still, but Pinnacle's at like -155. So you know where that market's going to go. It's kind of interesting because the books don't know where to price him. He was supposed to be a piggyback starter in a game earlier this week, but it got rained out. He was supposed to go yesterday, but they I believe they let Tanner Beebe go. So now he's on full rest, so he should have a full leash. And he's got a good matchup versus Miami, who the offense is absolutely horrible.
Oh,
the K rate isn't, those bad offenses, and Miami is certainly one of them. I think they're bottom 3 in weighted runs created plus. So there's a lot to like about him as long as he gets that long leash. And I think the market's starting to realize that he will go deep. So there's some value on that over 4.5 at even money or better.
Okay, my man. Thank you for joining. Let the people know where they can find your work, though. I'm sure you'll have plenty of insights and maybe some additional bets over the weekend.
I was placing bets because it's so boring right now. I was placing some bets in the green room there. What do we got? We have friendly international soccer. A little England and Germany both to score in the first half. Got that at minus 122. A little afternoon snack for a little half unit to win half unit. Why not? Just something to bleed into the MLB schedule. But here when I'm here, we got MLB releases Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 with Derek Carty. Me and Carlo will be doing every hockey game as it comes out in the Stanley Cup Finals and just bouncing around pretty much anywhere that wants to talk sports betting.
Yes, sir. All right, my man. Thanks for joining. Best of luck with those bets. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you next time we see you.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Take care. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Take her easy. Okay, winding right down here. Nelson Garcia in the live chat says he's watching from Venezuela today. As I like to point out, this is an international sports betting program, so shout out to Nelson. And hello to Greg, calling us the Big Three. Myself, Jon Metler, and Jingles. Yeah, you'll probably see more of Jingles over the course of the summer of Major League Baseball. Then, of course, he's going to have a big presence on the show during NFL season as well. I cannot wait. Football season. You don't want to wish away the summer, though. Okay, quick recap of my bets. Game 2 of the NBA Finals. I like the Mavs +7. Jason Tatum over 14.5 assists and rebounds. Major League Baseball tonight. Royals first 5 innings +116. Logan Webb under 2.5 earned runs. Justin Steele under 17.5 outs. And Framber Valdez over 5.5 hits. The weekend is pretty much here. Hopefully it's you might be watching at work yourself. But yeah, some stuff to do this afternoon. But the heavy lifting for the week is completely over. Looking forward to a weekend of relaxing, some fun in the sun, some ice cold beer, some barbecue, potentially going to Dairy Queen here with my sons this afternoon. So looking forward to that. Guys, thank you very much for tuning into the show today and for tuning into the show this week. We're going to be right back with you guys on Monday. Until then, best of luck with your bets. Woo!